In the dense woodlands surrounding Okmulgee, Georgia, these invasive creatures have become a relentless force of destruction, costing farmers and landowners more than $150 million every year. They rip through fertile soil, tear apart irrigation systems, devour crops overnight, and turn once green pastures into scarred wastelands of mud and ruin. What used to be thriving farmland now lies silent, the air heavy with loss, frustration, and the quiet weight of defeat. But the real danger isn't just what they destroy, it's when they do it. Unlike most wildlife, feral hogs don't rest when winter comes. When the cold sets in and food grows scarce, they grow bolder. They emerge from the woods under the cover of fog and frost, driven by hunger and instinct, raiding farmlands, tearing through fences, and inching ever closer to human settlements. Day or night, it makes no difference. What began as a handful of escaped livestock decades ago has become a biological storm, spreading fast, breeding faster, reshaping ecosystems 1 acre at a time. The damage can't be measured in money or crops alone. It's seen in the slow unraveling of the land's natural balance, in the quiet collapse of what once seemed untouchable. Today, hunting them isn't about sport. It's about survival, about defending the soil, the harvest, and the fragile harmony that once defined Georgia's countryside. Because if we don't act, these invaders will continue their march, not with fire or flood, but with thousands of hooves trampling through everything that stands in their way. You're watching NEO Farm, where we take you to the front lines of humanity's struggle to protect the earth from itself. Every story, every mission, every hunt is part of the same purpose: to restore balance to a world on the edge of losing it. Feral hogs, the most aggressive invasive species in America, are unlike any other animal on this land. When summer fades and winter takes hold, they don't slow down. The cold doesn't stop them. It only makes them tougher. They dig through frozen soil, tear up irrigation lines, erode riverbanks, and pollute the very waters that sustain life. From the open plains of Texas to the pine forests of Alabama, their impact stretches far and wide. Crop destruction, soil erosion, disease outbreaks, vehicle collisions, even livestock attacks, all trace back to one unstoppable invader. This isn't just a wildlife issue anymore. It's an ecological crisis. If left unchecked, America's farmlands could lose billions, and the environment could be pushed past recovery. For years, people have tried everything: iron traps, net traps, bait systems, even remote monitoring devices. Sometimes entire herds were caught in a single night, sparking hope that the tide was turning. But these animals are far from foolish. They learn. They remember where traps are. They shift their routes. They vanish into the woods, only to return when you least expect it. That's when the professionals step in. Hunters, not of sport, but of necessity. They don't rely solely on weapons, but on discipline, coordination, and cutting-edge technology. Working side by side with farmers, they form a highly organized network. ATVs crossing frozen trails, thermal cameras scanning the night, and trained dogs moving like shadows through the forest. Every mission is part of a larger battle, not for trophies, but for balance, for the land itself. Because in this fight, victory isn't measured by the number of hogs taken down, but by whether the earth can breathe freely once again. Dawn breaks over the pine forests of Georgia, casting a pale light across the frost-covered ground. It's more than the start of a new day. It's the beginning of another operation in the long battle against one of America's most destructive invaders. the feral hog. Alan's team is deployed in the northern Okmulgee region. Their mission isn't just to hunt, it's to observe, record, and understand how these animals move and adapt through the harsh winter. On the snow, deep tracks crisscross the forest floor, a trail of evidence left behind by a large herd moving overnight. Each footprint tells a story of says, direction, and purpose. By reading the patterns, the team can estimate herd numbers, movement speed, and even predict their next destination. Feral hogs rarely travel alone. They move in groups of 10 to 30, sometimes hundreds during the breeding season. Normally nocturnal, the abundant and scarcity of winter drive them out into daylight, raiding farms, tearing up irrigation lines, and uprooting entire pastures. Each night, herds can cover miles of terrain, crossing rivers, marshlands, and farmlands, leaving behind a visible path of destruction. The new tracks on the frozen ground tell a simple truth: they never stop. Alan's crew documents everything: GPS coordinates, track depth, herd size, direction. The data feeds into a growing map used by state and federal wildlife agencies to plan coordinated responses. This isn't just field work, it's a blend of science, discipline, and survival, carried out by people who understand that reclaiming balance starts with understanding the movement of the threat itself. In the frozen woods of Georgia, the footprints are endless, a quiet reminder that the invasion continues, one step at a time. After a successful day in the field, as the pale morning light returned to the frozen woods, Alan's team was already on the move again. Beneath the thin layer of snow, the deep, clustered tracks of wild hogs revealed a clear trail, a map written by their own movement. What the animals left behind in the night now betrayed their position, exposing every ridge, valley, and route they had taken. With precision and patience, the team followed the signs. Each footprint, each shift in the terrain, was another clue, logged, measured, and transmitted to the Central Wildlife Database. They were not just hunters, they were part of an ongoing operation to track, understand, and contain an invasion that threatened to reshape the landscape. The pursuit was relentless, but controlled, a balance between discipline and instinct, where every decision in the snow could alter the outcome of the mission. By sundown, the team had achieved another successful run. Yet for them, success wasn't measured in numbers, but in progress. In knowing that today, one more stretch of forest was safe again. They worked by a simple creed: to protect the land from erosion, to preserve the balance of nature, and to break the growing dominance of feral hogs across these frozen mountains. For Alan and his crew, this isn't about the hunt. It's about a promise to the wilderness, to the soil beneath their boots, and to the generations who will inherit it.
Ağzını dişlerle güzel profesi var. Güzel profesi var. Çekebilirsin istersen. Karşı kayalar. Evet. Oh. Sevgili avcı dostlar, hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. Çok uzun mesafeler yürüdük ve karşı dağdan
By the third day, fatigue began to settle in. The cold bit harder, and the silence of the forest felt heavier than before. Yet the spirit of Alan's crew remained unbroken. If anything, their resolve had grown stronger. This was the day they intended to make every effort count. Across the snow-covered slopes, the scattered tracks of wild hogs told a story of confusion and retreat. The animals sensed danger. Their patterns grew erratic. But against a team as seasoned and disciplined as Alan's, instinct alone wasn't enough. Every move the hunters made was calculated, every decision guided by years of experience. Taking a brief pause beside his frost-covered ATV, Alan reflected, "I've been part of over 300 hunts across different terrains, swamps, forests, mountains. Each one teaches you something new. It's not just about endurance or precision, it's about respect. Respect for the land, the wildlife, and the responsibility we carry out here." Over the years, Alan and his crew have helped remove more than 4,000 feral hogs from vulnerable agricultural zones, not as trophies, but as part of a broader mission to restore balance to fragile ecosystems. As Alan puts it, you don't conquer nature, you learn to work with it, to protect it, so that both people and the wild can keep surviving together. And so even after days of exhaustion and frost, the team keeps moving, not for glory, not for records, but for the future of the land they have sworn to defend. High in the snow-covered mountains, where nature's silence once reigned, the marks of wild hogs now tell a different story. One of disturbance and slow destruction. When the snow begins to melt and the soil beneath is torn apart, the runoff grows stronger, carving channels through the slopes. Small rivulets become landslides, stripping away fertile topsoil and exposing fragile roots. The once clear mountain streams turn cloudy, carrying sediment, waste, and contamination downstream. What begins as a few patches of disturbed ground soon spreads, threatening water quality, aquatic life, and even human communities that depend on these pristine sources. According to the U.S. Forest Service, feral hogs are not only damaging the land, but also silently reshaping the mountain ecosystem. They consume seeds, roots, and fallen fruit, interrupting forest regeneration and altering which species can survive. Native trees struggle to return, while invasive plants find space to thrive. Over time, this shift changes the entire food web. Insects lose their habitat, birds lose their nesting grounds, and mammals that rely on the forest canopy are forced to move elsewhere. What looks like a few overturned patches of earth is, in truth, the beginning of an ecological chain reaction. During the winter months, the evidence of their presence becomes unmistakable. Across the white snowfields, hundreds of hoof prints weave through valleys and slopes, forming a pattern, a written record of invasion. Each print, each trail carved into the snow, is a reminder of how deeply these animals have penetrated the mountain wilderness. Traveling in large groups, they trample vegetation, churn up the ground, and expose the dark soil beneath the frozen surface. Once the snow melts, these bare patches dry out quickly under the sun, leaving the soil brittle and lifeless. The delicate ground cover that once anchored the ecosystem dies off, replaced by erosion and desolation. Night falls over the Okmulgee woods. Beneath the pale light of the moon, the forest hums with a quiet intensity. On the snow-covered ground, footprints, scattered shell casings, and faint traces of mist whisper of a battle fought in silence. A battle fierce, unrelenting, and far from over. This isn't just a hunt. It's a long campaign, a test of endurance, unity, and purpose. The people here aren't driven by thrill. They're bound by duty to protect the land, the farms, and the fragile balance that holds nature together. Every frozen breath, every step across the snow, every sleepless night speaks of a deeper mission, to defend life itself. Because for them, this fight is not about conquest. It's about preservation of soil, of forests, of the bond between humanity and the earth. And as the dawn nears, their resolve only grows stronger. The battle continues, quietly, steadily, and with conviction. If you believe nature deserves protection, if you believe farmers and land stewards deserve a voice, join us on this journey. You're watching NEO Farm, where we bring you to the front lines of the fight against invasive species and to the heart of humanity's effort to restore balance to a world that still has a chance to heal.